Tirumala Hills in Andhra Pradesh is known to be the abode of Lord Balaji, also known as Lord Venkateshwara. Lord Venkateshwara is believed to be an extremely powerful and unique Hindu god. There are hundreds of stories about miracles that are attributed to him. If you don't believe in spiritual miracles, I think you should reconsider your beliefs, especially after hearing this story. On that fateful day of November 15th, 1993, 30 years ago, an Indian Airlines Airbus 300 carrying more than 260 passengers and crew crash landed 14 nautical miles away from Tirumala Hills or the Tirupati Balaji temple. And the miracle was that not a single soul died in this accident. Neither there were any major injuries. The entire crew and the passengers walked out of this aircraft unharmed. Hello, everyone. Hope all of you had a pleasant and a safe Diwali. Welcome to this special episode of mine today, which is about a incident which took place exactly 30 years ago. That is on November the 15th, 1993, around 11 a.m. An Indian Airlines Airbus 300 aircraft carrying 262 people on board crash landed on land, yet not a single person was killed and there was no major or serious injury. In fact, while turning the pages of history of air crashes during the last 50 years, one rarely found such a spectacular instance of a non fatal yet unavoidable air crash. The aircraft that landed on land, not on water. Majority of air crashes happen either during takeoff or landing, and many a times the aircraft lands on water, giving a slim chance of survival to the passengers and crew on board. The January 15, 2009 crash of the Airbus 320 on the Hudson River, captained by Chelsea Sullenberger of the US Airways, is very well known, documented, and even has a film to that incident. Captain Scully deserved all the compliments that came his way from commoners as well as the high and mighty of the United States of America. However, in today's episode, I'm going to talk of Indian Airlines Flight IC440. It used to be a scheduled regular flight of Indian Airlines operating on the Madras, Hyderabad, Delhi sectors. It used to start from Madras at 6 a.m., arrive at Hyderabad around 7 a.m., and after a stopover of about 40 minutes, continue its journey towards Delhi, arriving in Delhi at 9:45 a.m. It used to be a very popular flight for commuters between Madras, Hyderabad and Delhi, and many of us living in Hyderabad would, I'm sure, must have traveled by this flight many a times. The aircraft deployed by the Indian Airlines on this sector on this flight was the workhorse of the airline, the Airbus 300 aircraft. It was an excellent aircraft, a twin aisle aircraft, which had the capacity to seat about 275 passengers. Once the Airbus 300s were phased out and Indian Airlines got merged with Air India, twin aisle aircraft never returned on the domestic sector. Now, before I bring you the story of IC440 on that fateful day, I just want to give you a historical perspective of that year. 1993 was a bad year for Indian Airlines in particular. The airline had three major accidents that year, one of which was fatal. Two crew members were killed, one seriously injured in the three accidents. 53 passengers were killed in one of the accidents and 10 were seriously injured. Two aircraft were totally destroyed in these accidents.
This accident happened at Delhi airport while attempting to land in poor visibility. The pilot mistook the center line of the runway and thereby collided with some installations outside the runway, and that's why the accident happened. The images here look horrific, and yet there were no casualties. Only six people got serious injuries. The aircraft was completely burnt and destroyed. The second accident of that year, the passengers were not so lucky. This flight was operating from Aurangabad to Bombay on 26th April 1993. There were six crew members and 112 passengers on board. This aircraft was on Indian Airlines scheduled flight IC 491 from Delhi, Jaipur, Udaipur, Aurangabad, with final destination being Bombay. The flight from Delhi up to Aurangabad was uneventful. While taking off from Aurangabad towards Bombay, the pilot failed to lift the aircraft in time. Thereby, it collided with a lorry just outside the end of the runway and then hit the ground. The accident was severe. 55 people lost their lives, which included two crew members. And the third major accident that year was of flight IC 440 on 15 November 1993, carrying 250 passengers and 12 crew members. The flight crash landed 14 nautical miles away from Tirupati. However, there were no casualties in this accident. The pilot in command that day was Captain R.P. Bhalla. But unfortunately, unlike how Captain Scully was treated by the US authorities, Captain Bhalla never got any appreciation from any quarter. Far from showing gratitude, the DGCA, that is the Directorate General of Civil Aviation of India, pulled up Captain Bhalla for wrong judgment and miscalculation. He was barred from flying for days and remained on the ground without being put onto a flight roster. I tried to search for a photo of Captain Bhalla. This is what I could get, but I could not get this photograph verified. However, a lot of love, respect, and appreciation was showered on Captain Bhalla by all the 250 odd passengers whose life he had saved that day. Among the passengers that day were these two gentlemen, superstars of the South Indian cinema, Chiranjeevi and Venkatesh. Eyewitness accounts say that both these gentlemen showed exemplary courage to assist people, help them get out of the plane's wreckage. So, what went wrong that day? Before I explain the reasons, I want to explain a little bit of technicalities, how flights progress from one city to another. Right now, I'm showing you a live flight tracker called Flight Radar 24, and let's pick one flight coming into Hyderabad at this moment. Let's see. Yeah, this flight is coming from Chennai to Hyderabad. This is the track it has been following. Currently, it's flying at 7,000, about 7,000 feet, and it's ready to land at Hyderabad. It's descending towards the airport. Now, whenever a flight comes to the destination airport, there is always an alternate airport assigned to this flight. That is, for if for some reason this flight, which is a Air India Express flight, cannot land at Hyderabad, it should be carrying enough fuel to land at its designated alternate airport. In domestic flights, on domestic flights, the alternate airport is usually the
airport from where the flight started. That is, for this flight, the alternate airport would be go back to Chennai. So this flight would be carrying enough fuel to go back to Chennai. And not only that, it still carries some more extra fuel so that if it has to first hover over Hyderabad and for a few minutes, it can still do that.
For international flights who have been flying a huge distance, obviously the alternate airport cannot be from where they started. In that case, some nearby airport is designated as the alternate airport. So when the Indian Airlines Airbus 300 IC440 arrived at Hyderabad that day, the visibility at Hyderabad Begumpet Airport suddenly dropped. Hyderabad is not known to have fog, but then there are a few days every year during winter there is early morning fog. Now, the pilot made a couple of attempts to land at the airport. However, he was unable to land. The captain, R.P. Bhalla, who was the pilot flying the aircraft, checked with other nearby airports whether there could be a possibility, but all the nearby airports reported similar kind of visibility. A decision then was taken by the captain to go back to Chennai, which was their designated alternate airport. I'm sure many of you who have taken window seats on an aircraft are well aware of what goes on the wings of the aircraft during the flight. These yellow segments marked here, these are known as flaps, and they come out during landing and sometimes during takeoff, which essentially increases the lift as well as the drag on the aircraft. The front side of the wing, similar surfaces are there, which are known as slats. So as IC440 started its ascent to its flight level back to Chennai, the flaps here, shown here, they got stuck. They would not retract, which meant that the aircraft could not climb to its assigned flight level and had to fly much lower, probably around 12,000 to 14,000 feet. Flying at a lower level with the flaps deployed means that the fuel consumption would have increased significantly. And that is where Captain R.P. Bhalla miscalculated. They had enough fuel to go back to Chennai had it been a normal flight, had it reached its flight level of 30,000 or so, but then it was flying much lower with an increased drag. The aircraft consumed a whole lot of fuel much faster. Midway, the captain realized that he would not make it to Madras. He then started looking for an alternate airfield and requested permission to land at Tirupati airport, which was immediately granted. But then, as the aircraft progressed, he then found out that he would not be able to make it to Tirupati as well. About 20 kilometers short of Tirupati airport, Captain Bhalla hovered over the place and found the right spot to make a belly landing. He found a dried up lake near a paddy field on which the aircraft came down. Captain Bhalla made a textbook belly landing. As there was no fuel on the aircraft, the possibility of a fire was ruled out. And that is the single reason why the crew and the passengers remained unharmed. DGCA, on its part during the investigation, they blamed the pilot for this accident. The report says that the ill conceived decision of the aircraft's commander to divert to Madras without ensuring that adequate fuel was available for reaching there when he was faced with a flap jam and poor visibility at Hyderabad Point number two, the failure of the aircraft's commander and his flight crew to monitor fuel consumption correctly, and failure of the commander to revise his decision accordingly until it became impossible to reach any airfield. And third, a forced landing due to eventual fuel shortage. So that's what goes into the government's investigation report. However, I have many more questions which remain unanswered. Firstly, would any other pilot who would have been in Captain Bhalla's position, would he or she done any better? Secondly, there is no airport between Hyderabad and Tirupati which has the capabilities or a runway long enough to land a Airbus 300. So where could he have gone when fuel was running out? Bangalore was too far away. Thirdly, he saved 262 lives. Wasn't that a good enough reason to felicitate him and appreciate him? I don't know where Captain Bhalla stays today. I have not been able to find him on social media. But wherever he is, at least from all of us here watching this program, a big salute. Thank you, Captain Bhalla, for saving so many lives. Thank you for watching this episode and see you again very soon.